guys, can I have your attention real quick? Thank y'all. Me and my buddy Nathan here have been privileged to start a ministry called Gen Zion, and this is going to be kind of like our first worship night that we're really privileged to host y'all. I'm going to kind of like introduce everybody. Again, I'm Jonah. This is Fernando here. He's kind of playing the keys for tonight. We got Nathan, not to get confused, there's a difference. Got Shane, Joseph, Carson in the back, Olivia. So that's kind of got to be like the Gen Zion team. And so please feel free to come up to us at any time during the night if you need prayer or have a question or anything like that. But I'm really thankful that y'all are here. And I'm going to kind of explain to y'all a little bit what and kind of who Gen Zion is before we kind of jump into worship. For the past year, I have had a really big heart for student-led ministry, which I really long to see more. And so through a couple different, kind of dipping my toes in the water, me and Nathan kind of been able to kind of put our heads together to start this. But it really comes from a verse in Psalms 132:13, which says, "For the Lord has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his dwelling." Zion was the mountain that the Jews built the temple on in Jerusalem. This is the actual definition of Zion, is the city of holiness. Now, as you kind of see, Gen Zion's a play off of Gen Z. If you've ever heard of Gen Z, that's kind of our generation. I think it's 10 to 25 right now. But it's something I take value in, being in my generation, that may or may not get a bad rep, but I ask y'all, so the temple, right, was on Zion, but where's the temple now? In each and every one of you, right? It's in us. We're the temple. The Spirit dwells in us, right? Where's Zion? But do we live like it? Are we Gen Zion? Can we live like we're Gen Zion? Can we live like we're going to be a generation of holiness? For the Lord has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his dwelling. The Lord desires to dwell in you. Every single one of you, he desires to dwell in you. And we all are called to that. We all have our own calling. We see if you continue through the Old Testament, we see God calling champions and different leaders in the Old Testament. He calls Isaiah, and Isaiah is immediately, God, send me. Send me. And you might identify with that. I identify with that a lot. Or you might be like Jeremiah. In Jeremiah 1, God calls Jeremiah. And it says, "Alas, sovereign Lord, I said, I do not know how to speak because I'm too young." Or it even says, "I'm a youth." And I know, coming up before tonight, kind of think about what I was going to say, or all the kind of the details. I kind of switched from an Isaiah point of view to a Jeremiah point of view, where, man, I'm just a youth. How could you work through me? But then that kind of settles the responsibility on me, not the responsibility on God, because God can do anything he wants through you, whether you like it or not. That's right. So, knowing that we are all called, he says to Jeremiah, "I've consecrated you as a prophet for the nations." The Lord has consecrated you, has set you apart for your own specific reason. He set apart Jeremiah as a prophet. But he might set apart you for a different reason. What are you called to, and how are we going to live to that calling? Because it's important. It's important to find what we're called to do. It's important to understand that Jesus has set you apart and gifted you with special giftings to do what no one else can do but you. You are linked to an incredible assignment that God has gifted you with. He has chosen you. He didn't have to. God doesn't need us. But he chooses to because he loves us as we are his creation. So can we live like we are a city or a generation of holiness? Can we live like we're Gen Zion? We all have the temple inside of us. If I walked into your temple right now and I didn't tell you what would it look like? I struggle with that every day. What would my temple look like if, I wasn't ready for Jesus to kind of come on over? What would he catch my room looking like? What would he find on my walls? What would he find that I'm serving? Because we are all needing to stay awake because we do not know the hour our Lord is coming back. So if we're living like a city or a generation of holiness, and we're living like we are the temple, because the temple is where God dwells, Are we living like that? Not just in front of people. That's easy to kind of change ourselves where people might see us, but back at home, in your room, doing whatever. Are we still living like we're the temple, like we're where God dwells? Because the Jews lived their lives all 24 hours every day for one purpose, to serve God. And I struggle with giving every single hour to God. But we have to. We have to give that. Because we're called to be a generation of holiness. We're called to be Gen Zion. So I encourage you with that. I'm really thankful that you're all here. I'm going to ask the band to kind of come up. We're going to enter a time of worship. My man Carson's going to kind of pray us into that. And I just whatever y'all need to do to kind of just get ready, but like really just come before the Lord tonight, because we're leading you, but we're just as needy. Yeah. We're all needy.